Watch Lynch. 2 seconds, 1 second. Kobe pump fake. Kobe for the win. Kobe for the
2. He loops out to left field. Going to be a tough play. Jeter on the run, makes the play, and flies into the stands. Oh, what a play by Derek Jeter!
Roethlisberger has time, throws to the back of the end zone, and it is off for a touchdown by Holmes.
This is the Person of Foul podcast. I'm your host, Colton Gesser. I got a special guest coming on the show this week. He's a producer on air for the Tony and Bruno show on Sirius XM, former on-air host at 97.3 ESPN, where I met him, Ryan Rothstein. Thanks for coming on, Ryan.
Colton, what's up, brother? Always a pleasure, man. If I can talk sports, especially with a former coworker, I'm game. Let's do it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I had a lot of talks when I was interning at 97.3, and I said, man, I know you're not there anymore. You're doing bigger and better things. And I'm like, you know what? It'd be good to have him on, talk some sports, especially some Philly sports.
Of course, bro. Of course. You know, that's the one thing being on the national platform now. It's a little bit different. You know, the bias talk regarding Philly sports, I have to dial it back a little bit. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff for us to talk about, man. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes with the big contract. What does that mean for Dak Prescott and how it relates to Philly and the Philadelphia Eagles and a long list of things. So I'm ready to chat with you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, you already mentioned the big deal of the day. You know, we haven't had many big deals in sports so far during COVID, but man, oh man, do we have big news today. Patrick Mahomes signing a mega contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, lining up for 12 years, finishing out the 2 years he has on his contract now. So it's a 10-year extension. My Lord, 12 years, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. What does that do for the NFL? He got paid. What does that do for the NFL in the future for quarterbacks?
I don't know, man. I don't know, because here's the thing. This is what I do know, all right? You get a quarterback almost every year, if not every offseason, every 6 to 12 months, every 2 years at the most. You know, some starting quarterback in the National Football League is due for either an extension or a new contract. And if you're a top 20 quarterback, Colton, you're going to get paid. That's just the reality of professional sports, the reality of the year 2020 with the salary cap going up, more money coming in. Teams, organizations are willing to pay their starting quarterback big bucks. And if they aren't, another team certainly is. So what I'm getting at is the needle is always moving. Like the ceiling for big contracts is always getting higher. There's really no limit to that. But this is a little bit different. This is $500 billion with a B, $500 million. Now, that's not all. It's not black and white, as we all know. The deal could be worth up to over $500 million. So it could be worth up to $503 million. The contract is the richest deal in NFL history. But as you mentioned, Colton, it's a 10-year extension, $477 million with $140 million injury guarantee. So he can go out to the bowling alley tomorrow if it's open near him and, you know, slip and fall, tear both ACLs, never play football again. He's still getting $140 million. I don't know what this means, though, because Dak Prescott is due for a deal. You know, there's a lot of other quarterbacks in the near future that are going to be due for a deal. $500 million is not $200 million. I know that sounds crazy, but this is so absurd as far as length, and that's a big reason as to why we're seeing that $500 million. We haven't seen a 10 to 12-year contract in quite some time. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like contracts that stick out to me, 2001, the Patriots give Drew Bledsoe at the time the biggest contract in NFL history. 6 months later, he gets hurt and Tom Brady enters the fold, right? So like there's contracts that we've seen in the past with the double-digit number in length. But recently, Colton, we don't see this. We see a lot of 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, maybe even 8. The Chiefs kind of turned back the clock a little bit and maybe reshifted how teams operate with the double-digit number. But Mahomes is just on a different level. I don't know if this is apples to apples, dude, with any other quarterback in the league.
Yeah, last time you saw this mega contract given out, you've only seen multiple guys get the 10-plus year on their contracts. Donovan McNabb is one from 2002 with the Eagles. Brett Favre got a lifetime contract with the Packers. You just talked about Drew Bledsoe with the Patriots and Mike Vick with the Falcons in 2004. Not many guys have gotten this big contract. And figure Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Peyton Manning, one of the greatest to ever do it, Drew Brees, and you're not seeing any of these guys getting those 10-plus year contracts. It's crazy to think Patrick Mahomes has got that.
Yeah, it is. And let's just be real here. Like, he's not finishing out this contract. Like, whether it's in 4 years or 6 years, they're going to restructure it, and he's going to have changes and adjustments at the very least. So you see this, and it's great, but, it's not going to be the same exact thing from what we see in writing today as it will be in 5 or 6 years. Listen, Mahomes has a couple injuries, a couple injury-plagued seasons in the next 2 out of 4 seasons, whatever. Teams are going to turn on you real quick, as we always see in the NFL.
Yeah, especially with that money that he's getting paid, man. If you don't see him produce in the next few years, I don't see him falling off, but God forbid, like you just touched on, an injury happens, you don't see the same Mahomes-like player. It could be a lot of chirping in Kansas City about, man, this guy just got paid. What's going on here? We just gave him a 10-year extension, and he's not producing up to the par of what he's getting paid.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not saying that's even a reality.
Nah, it's the life of sports, man. You're not being negative.
It's just like, it's crazy to see the 10-year, 12-year contract, because try and find an example of where a player in any sport, given a multi-year, double-digit year deal, I should say, where they finish that contract out. It just doesn't happen.
No. And the level of their production towards the end of those years will not be the same. And that's what's crazy, man. He got a baseball contract in football. Is this going to be the new standard, you think?
No. I mean, listen, if you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, then yeah, I guess it's the quote-unquote new standard, the new norm, as Doug Peterson would say. But, I mean, you're not giving this contract out to anyone. You're not giving this contract out to Trubisky in Chicago. You're not giving this contract out to Josh Allen tomorrow. Like, it's just – this is a unique situation, right? This is just the reality. Does it help other quarterbacks? Yeah, that helps quarterbacks of lesser value, both literally and figuratively. It helps their pocket, but it's not anywhere near the $500 million mark. It's just he's a different breed, man. Mahomes is, I think, by far the number one quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think it's close right now.
No, I don't think it's close at all. And it's also going to be interesting to see with the cap going up, as we're talking about in the future seasons, did Kansas City – we're all saying, Kansas City might regret this. Did Kansas City get it right paying Mahomes this early, giving him the money early, especially if the cap's going to go up as they're saying it's going to go up?
I mean, I think – I'm not going to say that's a stupid question, because that came across my mind as well, Colton. But I think if we all take a step back from like trying to overanalyze things, which is what we do in this industry, but if you're the general manager of the Chiefs, are you not paying Mahomes? Like,
it's a quarterback-driven league. It's a quarterback-driven league. How many times have you seen some scrub quarterback make it to the Super Bowl? You don't see it. Pittsburgh needed one this year. Imagine Pittsburgh had a quarterback of decency behind the helm. The Steelers would have been more than 8-8 in the playoffs. It's a quarterback-driven league. If you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's clearly a top tier in the league, you give him the money he's asking.
He's the tier. He's not a top tier. There's the Patrick Mahomes tier, and then there's the top tier underneath him. I mean, he's that good. Listen, sorry, I have ads playing. Listen, you look at Lamar Jackson, the MVP of the regular season, all right? And if you're Baltimore, I don't care what they say, you look at that playoff game and you sit and you're nervous, right? Whether you put the blame on him or yourself as the coach, the organization, you're saying, man, next year in the postseason, we got to do some things differently. Lamar has to be better. My point is, you can have a top 5 talent. You don't know how that person's going to play, how that player is going to translate that regular season success to the postseason. And the Chiefs just saw Patrick Mahomes, say what you want, win them the Super Bowl. They do not win the Super Bowl if it's not for him and the long list of plays he made in the postseason. So you're going to hear all week, is this worth it? 10 years, you could have gave him 6 for $300 million. You gave him 10. I mean, this is a little bit extreme. I think they're a little bit in the honeymoon stage here, coming off the Super Bowl. Stop it, dude. You have the number one guy by far. You give him the money, and there's no regrets, all right? No regrets, not even one letter.
He did struggle in that Super Bowl, but he did overcome it at the end. He had a great second half of that game and led Kansas City to the Super Bowl. Going on to a guy in the division for you, signed his $31.4 million franchise tag, and he signed that very, very fast, might I add, as soon as Jamal Adams' name was brought into the picture with Dallas. Dak Prescott, could this open the door for Prescott getting paid and a bigger contract that he wants and Dallas has yet to give him?
I mean, you would think so. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think it puts him in the same league as far as money for Mahomes, but close. If you look at a yearly breakdown, I mean, put it this way, Mahomes is essentially going to make, I think, $40 million a year. Correct me if I'm wrong, with this new contract. I don't see how Dak gets less than 35. I believe the franchise tag was 37. So if he's franchise tagged for $37 million and he's looking for that contract extension, you look at Mahomes, now you have a pretty black and white laid out type of format for you. If you're if you're Prescott and even the Cowboys, you say, okay, Mahomes got around $40 million a year. You're giving me 37 for the franchise tag. There's no way, depending on the years that they give him, they can go below that $35 million mark a year. So I think this contract slightly helps Dak Prescott and his quest in securing the bag.
Yes, he's trying to secure the bag. And I believe Dak Prescott deserves the bag after the money he's been making his whole career, being a fourth-round draft pick for Dallas. I think Dak deserves to get paid. He's won some games. Is he the top-tier quarterback? Maybe not. But there's not many teams I can say, hey, I got one of these top-tier guys. I don't have a Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, any of those kind of guys. I think Dak deserves to get paid.
I mean, yeah, he does, because listen, say what you want, Eagles fans out there. There's guys of lesser talent that have gotten paid. And like you mentioned earlier, Colton, it's really hard to find a very good, reliable starting quarterback in the National Football League. So you never know with Jerry Jones what he's thinking or what he decides to do, but I don't see how Dak doesn't end up getting paid.
Now we're going to slide into the 76ers. Basketball's coming back, and I started with the Sixers first here. I know we're going to talk about the Phillies in a little bit. I wanted to bring up the Sixers first, as I feel like this is the more realistic option for out of those two sports, in my opinion. I think baseball has a lot of holes still in what's going on. You saw the Nationals just close down shop. I think baseball is going to have some bigger problems. We're going to get into that in a little bit. What do you expect from the 76ers coming back into Orlando? Healthy Ben Simmons, a healthy Joel Embiid, which this is a lot of people talk about this whole COVID thing. Oh, these guys getting breaks, this, that, and the other. It helps a lot of teams. Figure Philadelphia is probably one of the teams that is thankful basketball's back. You're going to have a healthy Joel Embiid now, a healthy Ben Simmons, and another team's the Milwaukee Bucks. Figure the Bucks, right before this whole COVID thing broke out and the NBA shut down shop, Giannis got hurt against the Lakers. And they were saying he's going to be out 2 weeks. So that was going to probably favor the Los Angeles Lakers to getting the number one overall seed in the NBA. I figure Giannis is going to be out the next few weeks. What do you expect from the 76ers coming back healthy?
I have no clue. Dude, because you have this team with Ben Simmons, Brett Brown, and Joel Embiid leading the way, because that's been the only three people, two players and the head coach, that have been a constant for this organization. All right? I'm not being negative, but I'm sick of the people. There's an Instagram video of Ben Simmons dunking without a shirt, and people go nuts. There's an Instagram video of Ben Simmons in an empty YMCA gym taking a foul shot, and they say, oh, look at that form. It's a swish. Just stop it. Brett Brown comes out and he says, Ben Simmons is close to 100% healthy. He's ready to go. Stop it. We've heard this before, all right? Now let me just disclaim all of this. This time off certainly helped Ben Simmons. He had a back issue. If the season went on as expected, it would have been a completely different scenario for Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers. So, yes, this time off has helped Ben, which directly helps the team. So that's a positive. Joel Embiid, I love Joe, all right? Embiid is one of my favorite athletes in all of sports, but that's when he's in the right headspace. Before this stoppage for the pandemic, Embiid was up and down. He was bipolar, not to use that term lightly, but he was one day having fun on the court, having fun in post-game. The next night, he would lay an egg and he would come out in post-game and say, I'm not having fun. I got to get back to my old self. He got suspended earlier in the year with the fight between the Timberwolves, and ever since then, he said he's hanging up his social media cleats and helmet, so to speak, and I don't think he can do that. He needs to be himself, and the organization needs to support him being himself, just like The Last Dance, which is the popular pandemic documentary. What did we see from Phil Jackson? He let his players be themselves. Joel Embiid has to be himself. Can he be that person with the inconsistency on and off the floor? I haven't seen it yet. Can Ben Simmons be the guy with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter that you're confident can make a play in a half-court set when the defense is at its best, when the games slow down, when the magnifying glass is on you? I haven't seen that yet. Their depth, the Al Horford issue, the Brett Brown issues. There's too many items on this long list of uncertainty for me, Colton, that I can come out now just because Brett Brown releases a stupid statement like he does all the time, and just because there's a couple of social media videos released, I can't come out now and say I'm excited and they're going to come out of the East. Can they? Yes, they can. Can they also lose in the first round? Yes, they can. That's the reality.
Yeah, that was the talk when we were at 97.3. That was the talk. I felt like all year was this team is built for the postseason. This team is built for the postseason. Well, the spotlight is going to be on them here with these final few regular season games, which they lead off with the Memphis Grizzlies. Might I add with the Memphis Grizzlies, man, did they get the short end of the stick as far as this whole COVID thing. My Lord, they belong in the playoffs. They've had a great season led by Ja Morant.
Of course they did, because the league needs Zion and LeBron. They need Zion versus LeBron in that first-round matchup, and the league is going to do everything they can to make that happen. Go bet the Pelicans to make the playoffs, yes. Take the mortgage out and bet that, because I'm pretty confident, Colton, they're going to overtake that 8th spot where the Grizzlies are.
Do you know who's also going to be in the mix there? The Portland Trailblazers. They're healthy now. Nurkic is back. Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum. That's going to be another interesting team. I think the Lakers also got screwed with this thing. You could say they maybe didn't because LeBron got all this time off to heal up and rest. But I think the Lakers also got a short end of the stick because figure the Lakers are going to open up with the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs in the first round. Now, I'm not saying I'd rather play the Pelicans. I'd rather play the Pelicans or the Grizz. I don't want anything to do with the Blazers personally.
I've always liked the Blazers. I just think this year has been too bad for them. Like, they've played like shit. You know, they had to bring Carmelo Anthony off the couch to be their second/third best scoring option. I think the time off has helped, just like Simmons on the Sixers a little bit. But Dame brought up a good point last week. He's like, listen, I don't see any of these players following the bubble protocols. And how is that going to impact teams and the playoffs? Because they're essentially prisoners down in that bubble in an empty Disney World.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hard for these guys. I mean, I see LeBron and a lot of these big alpha teams that are going to be a problem in the playoffs. Probably those teams are going to see in the conference championships talking to the young guys like, yeah, you want to win a chip this year, you better follow the rules. But I don't know how they're going to follow these rules, because I can tell you this is pretty hard for a normal person like myself just to stay inside. Imagine having all this money like these NBA players do and the popularity. You think they just want to sit in their room and just sit and playing video games all day? No, playing one-on-one ping pong, not doubles.
Yeah, exactly. Those rules were hilarious. I mean, no doubles ping pong, no like sharing soap, like guys are doing that anyway. Just like weird rules that I just had to throw into this conversation. But like, this is what I think for the NBA playoffs. The cream is going to rise to the top. Like, Colton, if you have to list 5 guys that you have no doubt will be ready to play both physically and mentally, who are the 5 guys for you?
It's got to be LeBron, one. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Dame's going to be a problem. Kawhi, clearly another one. Giannis. You know, those are just a few guys. And that 5th, you know who I think is going to be I love his comments. Kemba Walker's like, man, I'm a lone guy. This is going to be easy for me to follow. This is all I do at home anyway. I think Kemba Walker's going to be ready to go with the Celtics.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. And the reason why I asked that is how many of these guys, and I'm not even knocking them for this, like I get it. Like how many of these guys have really stayed laser focused for over 3 months, working out, conditioning, mental, all of that stuff. That's I don't want to say impossible, but it's close to impossible, man. And LeBron, I think, is capable of getting through that. Kawhi Leonard, like you mentioned, Giannis. Outside of those 3 guys, maybe Anthony Davis, just because he's with LeBron now and seems very focused to get that title this year. I don't know what type of Ben Simmons we're going to see. I don't know what type of Joel Embiid we're going to see, even Tobias Harris, just as this relates to Philly. There's just too many question marks surrounding this Orlando bubble.
Ben actually looks in really good shape. And you know who else looks really, really good shape? Zion Williamson actually looks in really good shape.
Zion does look like a beast. I think you're right. He looks like he dropped some of that baby fat.
He did. And it looks like, as you touched on before, looks like this is all primed up for the Pelicans to make a run here. What you have not seen is the rest of those Pelicans. How's Lonzo Ball looking? How's Drew Holiday looking? How's Brandon Ingram looking?
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I have no clue. You're asking me how they're going to look, right? Like, I'm not sure. Like, who can you confidently bet on? I honestly think it's the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to get through a couple series with somewhat ease, but I don't really trust them deep in the playoffs yet. Do you? Especially after all this?
No, I haven't seen much. Figure it's been Giannis, and that's been about it. They have a lot of good players around Giannis. The Lopez brothers are playing really good basketball. Brooklyn's playing really, really good basketball. I mean, they have a solid roster, but I really, really am curious to see how good Toronto's going to be and how good Boston's going to be and how good Philly's going to be. As much as we say the West is where it's all at, I think there's going to be some legit competition in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to see how teams are going to bounce back from this whole thing. This is time to show for Brett Brown to show how good of a coach he actually is. As much as the Philadelphia market hammers Brett Brown, it's time to see how legit he is and if he's ready to go in a crazy time like this in Orlando.
Yeah, because he has a lot of questions surrounding his team. If Ben Simmons is going to be off the ball in half-court sets down the stretch, is Shake Milton the guy? Is Shake Milton going to be in there, with 5 minutes remaining in a playoff game, facilitating the offense? Is Ben going to be on the ball?
Well, that was one of those things with Philly. They never solidified their rotation. It was these guys every other night. Philly needed to solidify their rotation, which was also a problem. Figured the good thing they have those 8 games to finish up. Philly could not solidify their rotation, so they need to figure that out now before this playoffs run happens.
Exactly. And a lot of that is not Brett Brown's fault because you have new guys coming in and out before and after each deadline in the offseason. You have a lot of injuries that the team has dealt with. I think the starting 5 played less than 20 games together this year. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables that were out of Brett Brown's control. But you still have guys now, for the most part, everyone's healthy for that top 8-9 rotation. Who are you going to use? Furkan is a great guy on the offensive side of the ball to stretch the floor. It gives Ben Simmons and Embiid some room to operate. He's a liability on the other end. You want Matisse Thybulle in on defense. He can't play a lick on offense. How does Brett Brown navigate all of these rotation questions? We'll find out here soon.
How do you think it affects some of these teams, like, for example, the Lakers, that lost us, I think, a very, very good piece in Avery Bradley. How do you think a lot of these teams are going to respond? That's a big team. That's the Los Angeles Lakers, who everyone has as one of their championship teams. Then the Clippers and the Bucks, the Celtics. How do you think the Lakers are going to respond with J.R. Smith coming in now with Avery Bradley out? Who Avery Bradley, might I add, during those final 2 games versus the Clippers and the Bucks, was playing top-tier basketball, getting 20 points and playing fantastic defense on the other end.
Yeah, it's a big loss. I mean, just from a depth standpoint alone, you have 1 or 2 injuries if you're the Lakers on that, wing position there for your depth chart, you're in trouble. But the Lakers, for me, are my pick. I'll just say it now, to win. I just think they've been on a mission. I think if you let LeBron continue to rest up and be healthy. He knows what to do in his off time. So I think it's going to be very dangerous between him and AD. And that's all they need. Listen, you can say what you want about J.R. Smith. He's older. He's lost a step, all those things, yes. But he's top 5 in NBA history for most postseason three-point shots made. So down the stretch, LeBron needs a bucket. He has a couple guys on the wing ready to catch and shoot. JR is a guy, if you ask LeBron, I'm sure he wants by his side. So when it comes to that, I think that helps them, bringing in J.R. Smith, bringing in Waiters. But Avery Bradley's a guy that can play both ways, and he's just a menace on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to impact them a little bit for sure.
Also, another thing you said in there, injuries. How many big injuries do you expect here from the basketball side of things once things get back in the first few games? Do you see any big – you're going to have a big star go down here. You're going to have LeBron James go down, Anthony Davis go down if they're not in tip-top shape, which we both think they are. But you can have one of these players go down. Do you see any, as much as we don't want to see, and that's the last thing we need to see, but do you see any big stars getting hurt during this comeback here for the NBA?
I don't know. I mean, I can't predict that, right? I mean, obviously, but you give these guys this much time off, and then you go right into essentially a playoff push, even though you have those 8 games. For some teams, those are crucial games to try and steal wins against teams like the Lakers and the Clippers and the Bucks. You say, man, let me try and get this win here, right? If you're the Pacers or the Sixers or any team that's not in the top 3 of either side of the conference, those are important games. So it's going to be interesting to see if the first game or two, Colton, is going to be like a universal, let's just get our runs in. Like if the players talk to each other and be like, listen, this is game 1. Let's just get up and down the floor. Let's make sure neither side gets hurt. Like, I don't know if we're going to see that or we're going to see the complete opposite, and it's going to be right from the rip playoff basketball. But if I had to guess, I would say there's going to be some injuries. You can't give these guys that much time off and then just hit the light switch on them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those teams like, well, Philly starts off with, as we touched on, the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are fighting for their lives to stay in this thing as the 8th seed. That's what's going to be crazy to think. I love that point also. Are teams like the Lakers and the Bucks that are up there, the Clippers, Denvers, those teams that are up on the top of the conferences, are they going to I wouldn't say give away a win in the first few games, but are they going to just walk through things, make sure their teams are staying healthy and getting back into basketball shape?
That's what I can't tell you. I would understand both sides of it. Right? Like I would understand if you're LeBron and the Lakers just trying to go out game 1 and get a sweat and get comfortable, run some offensive sets, get up and down the floor. Or maybe you look at it the other way and say, you know what, screw it. Let's go 8-0. I don't see the Lakers doing that, but I would say there's a majority of the pool that I could see saying, screw them, screw this. Let's try and steal 2 or 3 wins here for teams that are maybe trying to coast a little bit.
Yeah, now we're going to slide into baseball, which I think has done a horrific job as far as getting things started again. I think baseball could have hit a home run here and got things going before all these other sports did. NASCAR hit a home run, in my opinion. I think NASCAR gained some fans. I've talked to some people, and they're like, yeah, I've never watched NASCAR. And wow, they're now watching NASCAR because NASCAR's been going on for 4 weeks. Also, I think a lot of these other sports can take things from NASCAR. Figure NASCAR's been traveling as of late. They've been starting to go to a bunch of other tracks from the beginning. They stayed in Charlotte, stayed in North Carolina where all the garages were. Now they're starting to expand, and knock on wood, they've only had 1 case, which is Jimmy Johnson. Baseball could have been doing this. Baseball has the whole separation thing on the field with their athletes, and they fought about money. Now baseball's back. Now you have some teams shutting down shops like the Nationals just did because the whole testing thing isn't right. They're doing every 2 days, and you can have a guy come into the next day who has it and wipe out a whole team. What do you think's going on with baseball? I think they botched this whole thing this offseason. It's been a mess as far as complaining about money when you got people in the real world that are losing jobs, and these guys are fighting over money when these guys are millionaires. What is up with baseball? Because, man, it's been heated for me. I cannot take it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over it, man. I've been saying it since, for months now that baseball has botched this. And then obviously most recently over the past 2 to 4 weeks when all the sports, professional leagues here, we're starting to figure out and tie together their loose ends to get the seasons back up and running and or starting if you're baseball. And they haven't done it right, man. They haven't been able to compromise either side. It's more on the owners in the league than it is the players. But, you have Mookie Betts coming out and saying he's ready to play, but he's not confident. These players don't trust the league and the owners. That's the problem. So how many of these players are going to just easily give up once one or two things start to go the other way, like a couple teammates get COVID-19 or whatever the case may be, travel plans aren't thought out properly, like all those things I can expect happening. And are the players going to support and help, or are they going to make things more difficult? I think that's what you have to ask.
And at this rate, the way the owners and the players didn't agree, I think the owners are going to be a little disgruntled and make some problems out of the whole thing. And, oh, Lord, figure David Price, we were just talking about NBA championship teams, figure the Dodgers are supposed to be a championship team this year, and David Price, their big acquisition, then with Mookie Betts, is out this season. He's not playing for the Dodgers. So it's going to be crazy to think how the MLB is going to have to respond here and what other players are going to drop out.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing to keep an eye on, but I don't trust the league, just like the players don't trust their own league. So once again, if I had to make a bet or a prediction on if baseball is going to finish their season, I don't know how anyone can confidently say yes without just a hope and a prayer involved.
I can't even have a confidence in them starting the season on time. I figure the Nationals, this is supposed to be their training time, and the Nationals are already closing down shop. So you're not telling me that other teams aren't going to follow suit with that?
Exactly. So, I mean, you just look at the signs on the wall, right? Everything that's been pointing in the wrong direction for getting that league back up and running. Manfred's a joke. That whole league, I think, is a joke on how they operate. And like you said, in these crazy times over the past couple months, the NBA has figured out a way to make this happen in the bubble. We'll see how it goes. But other leagues have been more open and willing to just make it happen, whereas the MLB is still arguing what seems to be over peanuts for them.
Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, darn right. But, yeah, this crazy thing. But then we're going to hop into your Phillies here. They're going to start off their season with the Marlins, so that's a nice start for the Phillies if the season starts on time. Then they're going to go hosting 2 games with the Yankees, then go to New York for 2 more. So what are you expecting from the Phillies this year? Figure new coach coming in. We talked about it again at 97.3. Talked about everything that was going on there. I liked what they did in the offseason, bringing Didi Gregorius. Joe Girardi comes in. What do you expect from the Phillies this year and from Bryce Harper, especially Bryce?
Once again, I know this is like a cop-out type of answer, but with everything going on, dude, how do we know? The 60 games, what's been interesting for me is the talk of people in favor or against the 60 games. For me, I think baseball has a lot of issues. I'm not one of those old school baseball guys. I think the 60 games are going to be really entertaining and exciting just because it's going to be a sprint from the jump. I'm not saying it should always be 60 games, but whatever. That's the circumstance. Let's see how it goes. How are the Phillies going to use their starting pitchers? How is Joe Girardi going to use Jake Arrieta, right? Maybe if you're Jake Arrieta, he's had some issues in the past, kind of running out of gas come mid to late season. Well, there is no late season anymore. It's 60 games. Does he just throw 6-7 with no regard for human life, right? Or do you put him in the bullpen? How are you going to manage not just the Phillies but all teams, your starting rotation, giving guys rest? All of those things are interesting, and that's going to make an impact. But I think the 60 games help the Phillies out because, like I mentioned, the pitching has always been a question mark. The bullpen had injuries last year, the depth in the starting rotation. I think the shortened season helps that. So if the bats can just come alive, if Bryce Harper can really have a breakout 60-game type of run, they have a chance. I don't know how you can say they don't.
Yeah. Do you think this favors the Phillies with a 60-game schedule? I think it's also hard for the Phillies, as we just talked about with Joe Girardi coming in. A new head coach not having a full offseason with his players and good spring training and everything. Does that hurt the Phillies?
It does, but that hurts everyone. So that's just like a common denominator. I don't look at that saying that's going to hurt the Phillies more, although it could. all of these things are universal to every team in the league. So which manager and which clubhouse can handle it better than the others, right? And we're going to find out, but that's really near impossible to predict. Like I said a few minutes ago, I think this does help the Phillies because of those pitching question marks and other question marks. You only have 60 games. So if you want to go for broke, so to speak, go for it. And maybe Arrieta throws a little bit more loosely. You know, maybe the back end pitching, we'll see who's in that 4 or 5 spot in the rotation. Eflin, Vinny Velo, whoever it is, if one of those guys can catch on and have a solid 60-game stretch, then all of a sudden you have a rotation that other teams don't want to mess with. And if the bats come alive, they can make a run. But I think that's fair with any team. But the Phillies seem to have the tools to do it. Can Girardi and the clubhouse piece them together? That's the question.
Yeah, and then going down to pitching, it's going to be crazy to watch how some of these starters get their innings in the beginning of the season because you can't really not use these guys. Figure Zach Wheeler, one of their biggest free agent acquisitions for the season, comes over. It's going to be crazy to see how they're going to use their starting stats to start the season. And it's not like, oh, we got 100 and something games, we're fine. We can slowly stretch out these guys' arms. Yeah, you can't do that in 60 games. These guys have to go out and get wins and get innings because if, say, you pitch 4 innings with Aaron Nola to start or Zach Wheeler with 4 innings, 5 innings, you're going to burn through your bullpen very, very fast, and you don't have many days off. So you're playing 60 games in 66 days. Yeah, there's not many days for these guys to get off and rest the bullpen. So it's going to be crazy to see how these managers work out their starting rotations.
Yeah, it is. And you brought up the injury question for the NBA. I think that's even more so relative for baseball and the MLB. You have to imagine you're going to see some injuries both on the mound and for the offense and in the field. So which teams can get lucky and maybe avoid some key injuries and which teams are going to take a hit, and that will be the difference maker.
Last question here before we wrap everything up, do you give any doubt to championship teams for either the NBA, NHL, or the MLB? Do these guys, I think the NBA and the NHL earn their championships and they deserve to say, yeah, we're champs. What about for baseball? I know that's been a big question going around right now. If, say, the Yankees or the Phillies win the World Series this year, are they legitimate champions, or is it like one of those things like with the Astros, a little asterisk underneath next to it?
They're champions. I mean, once again, everyone's playing. Everyone went through the same BS. Everyone has the same uphill battle. You're competing against every other team in the league. The circumstance is much different. But if you come out on top and that's deemed the champion, you're the champion. I mean, it has that asterisk mark, but just because it's different, it doesn't mean they're less than. Right? There's a big difference between the two. You can have a unique circumstance where the champion that is crowned did not go through the usual type of path, but that doesn't mean it's less than. So for me, they're still champion. I do not look at it any differently. It was just a weird way to be crowned champion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think all the teams are going through the same thing, and everyone's given the championship to the Astros still. They haven't taken that away. So how can you take it away from one of these teams winning it this year? I mean, these guys are going through a very, very difficult time. A lot of these teams are going to go through a lot of adversity during the season. Figure playing 60 games in 66 days, not many off days for these guys, for the pitching staffs. I think, as you touched on, there's going to be a few injuries. As much as we don't want to see them, you're going to see a lot of injuries, I think, and I think a lot of these teams that have the depth are going to come out on top, and you also might have some surprising teams, which is very interesting with the 60 games. You might have one of those surprising 2 teams make the playoffs for that you didn't see if this was 162 games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I'm looking forward to it. I'm not a baseball fanatic, like I said. There's going to be a lot of other competing content between the NBA and even the NHL playoffs. I think they're going to be really exciting. But nonetheless, I think it's all a big unknown, and there's a lot of uphill battles for each league and each team, each player. We'll see what happens, man. Hopefully they can figure out a way to start and finish every season.
Oh, I hope and pray that's what happens. We need sports. We need it back badly. But, Ryan, thank you very much for coming on, man.
Of course, man. Anytime.
You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Rothstein 33. and you can hear him on Sirius XM with the Tony and Bruno show. Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. You can follow the Personal Foul Podcast on Twitter at @foul_podcast. And wherever you get your podcasts that's where we're at. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we're at. But that's a wrap.